Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, why education is under fire in the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps says American and Israeli universities in the region will be targeted. That's in response to the bombing of the University of Science and Technology in Tehran on Saturday.
Could attacks on Iranian schools be a continuation of the Gaza playbook? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take. Hey everyone, I am back behind the mic after a little time off, and one of the things I've been looking forward to the most is hearing from all of you. My team and I love reading your reflections on our interviews in the comments. The praise, the critiques, the questions, we really do scroll through and read them. So today, let us know how this war is impacting where you are and what stories from home you think we should know about. Until then, here's the view from Isfahan in Iran.
I'm Setareh Sadeqi. I'm an assistant professor at the Faculty of World Studies, University of Tehran. Currently, I am based in Isfahan, which is my hometown and where my family lives.
Well, Setareh, welcome to The Take. It is good to have you. I am catching you on Tuesday evening in Iran after what I can only imagine has been a very long day and a sleepless night as the U.S. and Israel launched attacks in Isfahan, the city that you just said you call home. Videos from witnesses showed fires lighting up the night skies and these massive explosions, and you're there. So how are you doing?
Well, we're holding on and we're trying to cope. But as you said, I think it was around 3 a.m. That I woke up. I felt like I'm hearing the fighter jets, and that's what woke me up, sort of. And then the really loud explosions and sort of the shaking of the windows was, I was sure that they're bombing. And it was one of the most massive and longest bombings of Isfahan. I've experienced over this 1 month. It's been worse, but this was sort of the longest. And I think some of them were targets that they had already bombed a couple of times before.
Wow.
It was going in different directions, like the north of the city, east part and the south part, but also small towns around Isfahan.
And when that's happening, so this is overnight, you wouldn't have been outside, but when that's happening, what does your instinct tell you? Do you just are you hiding under the covers? Are you looking out the window? What's happening?
Well, because we've been advised not to go, near the windows, because sometimes the shock waves can, break the window and then also push people and push things. That's how a lot of people get injured, because they're living near the place that has been bombed. And we have seen how the Zionist regime and the U.S. regime have been bombing civilian facilities, have been, bombing residential buildings. Just in one case, 5 or 6 people died while they were shopping at a supermarket. People who were just sleeping in their places. The Zionist regime brags about precision strikes, but there is no precision strikes. It's actually carpet bombing of civilian infrastructure. And the objective is to traumatize people so that they would, push their governments to ask for a ceasefire. But because we've also been living with the threat of a war and all sorts of aggressions, people are just like, no, would rather, go on. I attended a funeral for a Christian Iranian who was martyred in one of the carpet bombings of the city. And it was very beautiful in the sense that Muslims and Christians together attended the funeral. And it was just a few hours after, the 2,000 pounds bombs were dropped in Isfahan, in the city you would normally expect people to want to keep inside their houses and be safe. But they were out on the streets and they attended this funeral. And again, next to that funeral, I was just coming back home. I was walking in the parks in the neighborhood. Shops were open. People were hanging out in the cafes.
Wow.
People were shopping. I actually went to have a coffee at a cafe near the church, and there were young people just hanging out there and having their coffee and having their chit chats. Then in the park, there were people exercising, running, walking with their families, even like
Wow.
with strollers, with babies in strollers, women and men riding their bikes, having picnic, having loud musics in the park. And you cannot really think that this is the same city that was bombed heavily a few hours ago. And it's because I think people find that as a way of not only, keeping up the spirit, but also resisting the imperialist narrative that wants to say that normal life has been finished in Iran.
Right. Wow. That is definitely not an image I'm used to hearing about or seeing when it comes to headlines about Iran, that the people living their everyday lives. So thank you for that description. And I think it's so telling because it's not just heavy bombing. Like you said, it's 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs. So when it comes to this latest round of hits on Isfahan, a U.S. official told the Wall Street Journal that a large ammunition depot is what the military hit with a 907-kilogram bunker buster bomb. But that is not the only thing that has been targeted in Isfahan. Over these past few days, airstrikes hit the Isfahan University of Technology for the second time. And that happened over this past week. And it is that attack, among others, on various universities and research institutions in Iran that has Iranian government officials pointing to a pattern in this war, one that they are calling deliberate. So what can you tell us about what universities and centers have been hit?
This war started by Tomahawk missile attack, a double tap attack on Minab Elementary School, which killed more than 100 students. While they were in session, they were in school, they were martyred alongside their teachers and some of the parents who had come to take their kids. And according to even U.S. political analysts and military analysts, this was a very deliberate attack because this type of missile is equipped with, images that will tell you where exactly you're targeting. And the double tap was on exactly where the students were taking shelter from the first attack. I mean, we have seen how the Zionist regime, with the help of the United States, bombed schools and universities, killed and assassinated, teachers, scientists, professors in Palestine.
When lecture halls fall silent and libraries turn to ash, the future of a generation is left in ruins. Universities have been destroyed since the war began. Where knowledge once thrived, thousands now struggle just to survive.
This is definitely a pattern, and they are able to do that because they have been doing it for decades with absolute impunity. No international organization, no other country has brought actual justice to the perpetrators of these attacks and assassinations. On Iran, they have assassinated multiple scientists in the 12-day war in June, but also now, like Dr. Hisham, who was an engineer. We have seen the University of Science and Industry or Technology in Tehran being attacked. Even university dorms were targeted.
Some buildings, research-related buildings of the university have been reduced to rubble, as we saw in the footages coming out from that.
Thankfully, there were not students because we're having our Nowruz breaks, but also within the first week of the war, when the war started and as it started on schools, the government moved all the classes online. Next week, we're going to start again, but we'll continue working remote because we don't want to give up on our rights to education. women, especially Iranian women, which make up the majority of university students in different fields, including STEM, they're not going to give up their right to education. And you can take out scientists and scholars and university professors, but you cannot, kill the motivation, the inspiration that people have in order to acquire knowledge.
And which begs the question for me, because you are an assistant professor at a university, you are teaching a next generation. So how are you navigating that for yourself? What is it like to have the knowledge of those who have been killed in academia, those who are trying to learn, those who are teaching, and you yourself are in academia?
I think it makes it a lot more clear for me how important it is to acquire knowledge. That's one way of resisting imperialism. One of the courses that I teach at university is post-colonial thought. And one of the weapons used against Iran as a nation has been, the colonization of minds. They have spent billions of dollars into putting out propaganda in order to brainwash Iranian people. And in order to, resist that, you need to learn about your history. You need to learn about the history of colonization and how the imperialist powers have sought to otherize an entire nation in order to dehumanize them and justify an attack on them. And we have seen this pattern in place, not only for Iran, but also for Palestine, for Iraq, for Afghanistan. There is always a narrative before the actual war starts that seeks to justify public opinion and across the world in order to attack them. And that makes it more important and crucial for us to continue that type of education. So of course, it's about, like, for example, the drone specialists, engineers, those who are involved in anything that has to do with our defense capabilities, but also our infrastructure. But it's also about anything that can educate an entire nation against the colonization of the minds.
Well, Setareh, you're giving us a window inside Iran that most of us, many of us at least, would not otherwise have. So I want to go even a little deeper because I want to ask you about some of these universities themselves. You explained why they were targeted, but not everyone will be familiar with what actually goes on in the halls of these schools, specifically the ones that were hit. Now, the government is saying something similar to what you're saying, but even more pointed. The spokesperson for the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs put it very clearly on X about why they were hit. He writes, "The American-Israeli aggression against Iran continues to reveal its true objective: to cripple our country's scientific foundation and cultural heritage by systematically targeting universities, research centers, historical monuments, and prominent scientists." Now, we know that both of the schools that were hit in this past week were also research institutions. What else should we know about them that Iranians know about why they were strategic, why they were important, and why they might have been hit?
One of the main facts about Iran that is usually totally, not covered on mainstream media, and a lot of people do not know, is that a lot of young Iranian students and scientists are involved in homegrown science. And it's not necessarily only about, for example, the defense capabilities, which, produce these drones or missiles, but also, for example, Iran is among the top 10 countries in nanotechnology. After sanctions were imposed on us, we have been producing the majority of our medicines inside the country. So just recently, they targeted a pharmaceutical company that was producing medicine for cancer. They have been, attacking, for example, IVF clinics, where there was also like a research part, and but also couples who were struggling with fertility and were hoping to have, babies using this technology. And I personally know, for example, very young people in their 20s or in early 30s working as at many of these research centers. And some of them, it doesn't mean that everyone was, pro-government in the sense, there were just Iranians who had ambitions, who wanted to be, scientists who wanted to contribute to the knowledge production. There are numerous Iranian knowledge-based companies, all run by very young people. So that narrative is totally, eliminated from anything that has to do with Iran. And these are exactly the people and institutions that are being targeted by the imperialist power and the Zionist regime.
Well, I want to broaden this out and talk about what this might mean for education in the region as a whole, because we know the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has issued a warning to American universities and residents in the surrounding region to evacuate and be at least 1 kilometer away from those educational sites. They are threatening to strike the universities in retaliation. And we're already seeing this play out reportedly in an attack on the American University in Suleimania in Iraq. So this war isn't just going to affect Iranian education, but education in the Middle East. What could that ripple effect look like?
Well, I think, first of all, Iran is giving a warning ahead. This is something that the United States and the Zionist regime did not do when they wanted to target Iran. And this is all in self-defense. Imagine when they assassinated Tunisians, Egyptian, Palestinian scientists, if those powers had the capability to respond to the attacks on, for example, Zionist regimes, academic institutions, which are actually involved in, military actions against other countries. If there was a response, if there was justice brought to them, we would not see this continuing pattern of assassinating nuclear scientists, engineers, medical scientists, or etc. in other countries. So Iran, for the first time in history, is bringing justice to it for its own people. It's making it clear that if you attack our academic institutions, we're going to respond.
Wow. Well, you personally, I want to bring this focus back to you and your students, because you mentioned you're on Nowruz break, but then you will be teaching online once you're back. We know that connecting inside Iran and connecting outside Iran are 2 different things. What should we know about how you're connecting with us and how you and your students are going to be able to connect? Because just as we're speaking, as we're having this interview, I'm seeing breaking news tickers on the aljazeera.com live blog about the power and connectivity being out in Tehran. So what can you tell us?
Well, Iran, because of, for safety reason, but also for being efficient, has this, we don't have a central power grid. It's scattered around the country. So if one part loses power, other parts are still functioning. And yes, internet usage has been very restricted. Most of us use internal internet and domestic applications. We have different messaging applications, social media applications. Universities have their own e-learning systems that students and professors use. But some of us also try very hard to get connected through VPNs. But also there is, the government has said that a portion of the businesses that need to use businesses, sometimes media people and scholars are given temporary access to international internet so that they can continue with their jobs. For example, I've seen there's this fabric shop in Isfahan that I usually buy from. They're still active on the internet. Different gold shops, they're active on the internet. But still, this has been very limited because the VPNs have become a lot more expensive than they used to be. And once you get connected, it works, but sometimes it's very difficult to get connected.
Well, I want to end with something that you brought up in your very first answer, which I'm sure resonates with a lot of people. And it's that what we're seeing happen in Iran is something that we've seen play out other places, specifically in Gaza. So We know that at this point, more than 600 schools and education facilities have been destroyed or severely damaged by U.S.-Israeli attacks in Iran so far. And that's the start of the kind of destruction that many people will now recall seeing in Gaza, where all of the Gaza Strip's universities have now been destroyed. What does it feel like to see these same tactics play out all over again, but this time it's at home?
I think some of the people are shocked because they were not expecting it to happen at home. But for a lot of us, we have learned during years that this is the nature of Zionism. This is the nature of imperialism. They have always tried to create perpetual chaos so that it can loot nations' natural resources for many years. They have tried to eliminate entire nations, entire families. And the Zionist regime has been continuing with impunity doing that in different parts of the world. It started in Palestine, but we've seen that in Lebanon, in Syria in a different way. I think it's not only for this region. Even inside America, the impact that AIPAC has had on internal U.S. politics makes ordinary Americans victims of a political system that fails to serve its own people. And once, for a lot of us Iranians, seeing this, it's not surprising that now they're killing Iranians. It's a continuation of a battle that has been going on for decades. For people to understand why Iranians do not want a ceasefire, because we tried a path of diplomacy several times, and we tried a ceasefire and it did not work. Palestinians tried ceasefire with the Zionist regime and it was breached thousands of times. Lebanese tried that and it was breached. There is no way we can trust the U.S. and Zionist terrorist regimes. So the only way for us to guarantee peace and security is to bring justice, to teach these aggressors a lesson that they have to pay a very heavy price if they dare attack us again. And we're determined to continue with that. And I think we're showing to the world, one, that this paper tiger is totally defeatable. Those targets can be attacked and can bring about security for Iran. And it's giving hope to all the people who have experienced colonization and imperialist aggression that it is possible to resist.
Setareh, thank you so much for your time, especially at a time like this, for taking some of your day to talk to us about what you're experiencing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.